You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword.
Oh my God, I love your couch. I keep daydreaming about how I want to get a new couch since my couch is so uncomfortable. Now that I'm like in quarantine and staying on my couch a lot of the time, I'm just like, this is not a couch made for lounging. It's just not.
You have to get a deep couch.
I need a
that
deep
That makes all the difference, the deepness of the couch.
I know.
Some people's couches, I have no idea how they live like that.
No, and I mean, my couch is like fine, but Neptune has licked every inch of it, so it's like stained, and like no matter what we do, it just doesn't look as nice as it can. I want to get like a different color, do more research about how to get a couch that works well with animals.
Well, stay tuned for Chelsea's new couch. All right, well, that's the episode.
That's it, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword. Everyone's favorite weekly Podword Crosscast.
Yes, this is like a reverse intro.
It is a reverse intro, and I'm going to say good evening right now because
I'm going to say I'm Grace
and I'm Chelsea. You are listening to us. This is the podcast. Oh my God. Okay. You might be listening to us. You might be watching us. This is a gentle reminder for all of our listeners out there that yes, we do have a YouTube channel, and you can come look at our faces while we talk about my couch situation and our pets.
Beautiful, beautiful faces.
Yes, true.
I feel like I'm setting the expectations high. I'm like half in shadow right now, so.
It's kind of like her mood. She had a light on her face and she was like perfectly lit. And then she's like, this just doesn't fit my personality. So she turned it off. And so now she's in shadow.
Yeah, it's good to always have like an air of mystery around you, I think.
It's true. And if you're interested in seeing that air of mystery, head over to our YouTube channel.
Nice plug.
Thank you.
Should we get into the episode now?
We should get into it. Did anybody write to you about any corrections corners this week?
No one wrote to me at all.
Yeah, me neither. Matt, my boyfriend, told me that I say a lot. So...
F you.
F you very much. It's true. I have a thing with my voice. We talked about like Valley Girl, accents.
The vocal
right?
fry.
The vocal fry and like all that stuff.
But you did just say, I have a thing.
Sorry, I need to go to like Princess Bride or Princess like
Diaries
training. Princess Diaries training. Yes. They can
only
like
Julie Andrews is doing it.
Yeah. She can pinch me every time I say the word
A lot of people say I mean, I never do. No, just kidding. I'm sure I do.
But we do have some hits and shits, I think. Shall we get into the hits and shits?
Yeah, I was saying actually I don't have that many shits these days because I'm not really doing the New York Times crossword puzzle.
I know. I have 2 shits this week. One of them is a shit because I'm sick of it. We talk about it a lot. This was from the Monday, New York Times, July 20th, Alex Eaton Salner's puzzle. 26 across. Girl's name that sounds like 2 letters of the alphabet. And the answer was Evie, spelled E-V-I-E, like the letter E, and the letter V. Yay. Because there's nobody in the whole wide world named Evie. So,
yeah.
That's fun. I mean, honestly, it's just lazy. And I think if that's the editor doing that, you're lazy.
Yeah. Could have done Eevee the Pokemon, although I think that's spelled differently.
It might be. It might be E-E-V-E-E. We know a dog named E-E-V-E-E, Eevee, after the Pokemon.
Sound like a robot when you're saying that. Okay.
I am a robot. Wait. Also from that puzzle, 52 across, frat member. The answer is bro. And I just want to say, Grace and I are both fraternity members, or we were fraternity members. A lot of people are surprised that there are co-ed fraternities out there, but they are. There are, and we were part of them. So wake up, New York Times crossword.
Yeah,
okay?
We both have our Greek letters. We are in Greek life, and we're in a fraternity. And they do call the women brothers in fraternity. Well, so I guess actually then that clue is right.
I guess it's technically
because we were never sisters in the fraternity.
You're right. Okay.
It's kind of weird to me that we were both in Greek life because I feel like, I mean, no, that's the thing. There's so many stereotypes about Greek life and, it depends on the school, the organization, whatever.
Right. I wasn't in like your typical American sorority or fraternity. It was like an academic fraternity. Oh
yeah, mine too. I went to Loyola. There was like no, yeah. Okay, my shit is kind of a stretch. It's more of just like a personal grievance I want to air. This is from The New Yorker on Friday, July 17th by Robin Weintraub. who we like. She's very funny. 16 across, upgrade from a studio, a 1-bedroom. You know what? Some of us don't feel the need to be confined with all these walls that society tells us we need to be upgraded. I mean, maybe a size upgrade. Maybe there's some huge studios out there, Robin.
Yeah, and I mean, like, think about like a loft, right? It has like maybe a couple room dividers, but I guess technically it's still all one room, right? Because there's no doors. Yeah,
it's still considered a studio. Just putting that out there, expand your mind, okay? I don't like upgrade, downgrade. We're all just living our best life in the best apartment that we can have in this moment. So that's my one shit today. I said it was a stretch.
Very nice. I liked it, though. I liked it. Did you do the Monday New Yorker Natan last, July 20th?
I think I did.
I liked
maybe not.
I liked a lot of this puzzle. I thought it had a lot of really nice long answers. I love when the long answers are super unique and things that you wouldn't necessarily see in like a New York Times crossword. And the clues are really interesting. 34 across stumped me and my boyfriend for a while because we're, basic. 34 across, Quentin Tarantino's Western that began as a novel called Django in White Hell. And obviously, like doing crosswords, you know that the clue, the answer will never have words that are in the clue.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I did do that one, but I don't know.
And so I thought it was Django Unchained, and I couldn't think of like any other Western films that Quentin Tarantino has done, which is stupid of me, because the answer was The Hateful Eight, which I haven't seen, but I just liked the clue, and I liked that it was a little tricky. And I also love the book title, Django in White Hell. I think that's great.
Yeah. They should have named the movie that.
They should have. Another really good one from that puzzle, 6 down, something to learn from, was Object Lesson. Or 11 down, Mechanism disabled by Netflix, was Screenshot. And this was really good too. 20 down, Responders to a 2018 crisis at the Tam Luang Cave. And it was Rescue Divers. Just some really good words in the puzzle. It just, spices the grid up a little bit.
Yes,
Bravo.
I agree with that. Actually, there was one of those that I liked. What is it? Is it 15 across or 17? 15 letters that are across a grid. Yeah. That's like, I think constructors like to find words or phrases that fit that are kind of unique just because they're fun. You don't see them very often. From the USA Today crossword, Packing on the PDA by Xochitl Bernakel. 17 across, Skeletons in the Closet. And it was Deep Dark Secrets.
Nice. That's good.
It wasn't anything too crazy, but like you just don't see that very often in a crossword.
Speaking of
happens to be the perfect amount.
Yeah. Speaking of Xiaoxin, they did the Tuesday New York Times crossword. 15 across. I'm bringing this up for a very specific reason. I'm going to read the clue and the answer, and then we'll talk about the reason. 15 across. Used an old phone, and the answer is dialed. There's a trend going on right now, like on social media, TikTok, Twitter, where you go up to various generations of people and you ask them, Grace, pretend to answer the phone. How would you do it?
Hello.
Right. Like, hello.
With and if thumb and pinky.
Right. Depending on your age group, depends on like how you mime that. Like an older generation, like maybe in their 80s, will pick up the phone like they're actually holding the body of the phone like a fist and put it up to their face. Our generation will do the thumb and the thumb and the pinky. But if you ask like the youth, they literally put a flat palm up to their face because it's like an iPhone. And I love all age groups. I am not ageist in any way, and I love the differences in like different like generational differences. But that truly gobsmacked me. It gobsmacked me. My mouth flew open.
Well, what I find interesting is little kids, like my niece who's 2, she has some toys that have like an older landline phone on it, but she knows what to do. I think like I'm sure she saw my sisters or something, hold the phone up and say hello. So she knows it's a phone, but I'm thinking like she has no idea what this is. She's never going to see one of these.
Right. Exactly.
Even if she does see a house phone now at my parents' house, which they've disconnected, but they still pay for it because it's part of their cable bundle, whatever. It's not, it's not like a corded phone. It's more just shaped like a remote control. They're not shaped like how they used to be, which is what the toys still are. But she does have a toy cell phone, actually, like a toy.
Oh my God.
buy a toy, it's like a plastic rectangle with stickers of numbers on it that she will answer it and be like, I have a work call, so you can be quiet for just a second. She puts her finger up.
Kids are so funny. They're so smart.
I know.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I think that's like a fun little trend that's going around. And if you're listening, you should do that in your little friend groups, your little communities, and see how people answer their phone. Another one that was good from that puzzle because I learned something. 20 across, spice in a pumpkin pie. And the answer is mace, spelled M-A-C-E. I mean, obviously, most women and most people know what mace is in terms of like protecting yourself. But mace is also a spice made from like the covering of a nutmeg seed. So it's similar to nutmeg, but it's like a little bit more delicate. And apparently you use it to make things like pumpkin pie if you don't want to use nutmeg. And I wonder if I would like pumpkin pie if it was seasoned a little bit more delicately, because I don't really like pumpkin pie.
Yeah, I'm not a huge pie person in general, but you definitely do not want to mix up your maces. Just like you don't want to mix up your urns.
It's true.
You got to be careful.
It's true. I've seen, speaking of urns and speaking of TikTok, I've seen TikToks where people will pick up urns thinking that they're candles and try and smell them. And their friends will be like, that is my grandmother. And they're like, oh, shit. Anyway, fun times on the internet. That's all I got for today. I didn't do too many crosswords this week because it was a crazy work week.
I have I think this is the USA Today from today, which is July 23rd. Sorry, I just have like a quick screenshot of it. But 44 down, Diva Cup alternative. And the answer is pad.
Nice.
I just liked saying Diva Cup in there. If you don't know, a Diva Cup is a menstrual cup. It's a popular brand of it, although there are it was kind of like the first brand out on the scene, but there are plenty of other brands now. But it was fun to see it in a crossword. I feel like I'm sure that stumped some people.
Yes.
But yeah, if you're interested in menstrual cups, I cannot say enough good things about them.
She can't. She talks about them every
The joke
day.
I always say is my cup overfloweth with. I can't help but say that, but it's true. There's just so many positives to it. So.
Oh. God.
My cup overflows, but not literally. That's would defeat the purpose of having one. But yeah, if you want any recommendations,
hit us up. We'll let you know.
There's nothing off limits here. Okay.
No. I guess, does that move us into our coin flip?
Flip it, baby.
I'm going to flip it. Here we go. I'm flipping the coin now. Tails.
That's me.
That's her. 2 weeks in a row. Can you believe it? I feel like the gods are trying to say something to us. I don't know what.
But what? My topic is from The New Yorker, Friday, July 17th by Robin Weintraub, and it is 45 across, non-human Disney protagonist.
Stitch?
He's not the protagonist, first of all. Lilo is. No, it's Ariel.
Simba? Oh,
Ariel.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it could be Simba. But it's not. It's Ariel.
Okay, Ariel.
The mermaid. She's half human, so...
The mermaiden.
Yeah. Sorry. My cat is trying to claw up onto my lap. Okay.
Does that mean we're talking about Ariel, or are we talking about mermaids?
We're talking about mermaids in general, and the original Little Mermaid story.
Wonderful. Very exciting.
Yeah. I think we've talked about mermaids before here and there as kind of... like additional things. I think when I talked about the Kraken, I talked about other like mythical sea creatures.
Yeah.
But now I want to go deep into mermaids and how they have shown up in all different like folk tales all over the world.
Right.
And also kind of talk about, you know, with the new live action coming out, if you remember, the girl or the woman who got cast in it, Hallie from Hallie and Chloe.
Yes.
They're
who
a
we saw
singing
live.
group. Yes, we did. Way back in the day. They're a singing group and also actresses. Mm-hmm. And I think they're sisters. But anyway, she got cast as Little Mermaid and people were upset about it because she's black. And they're like, Little Mermaid can't be black, da 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 da. Now people have... There's so many other things to be upset about now. I feel like people have...
Right. And if you don't think Little Mermaid can be black, then I've got news for you. Well, you are an R and it ends with a T. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, there are Disney princesses where, yes, their race has to do... like with the plot, story for sure. Mulan, Pocahontas, Tiana.
Right.
But with Ariel, like her being white really has nothing to do with the story. And, you know, I read about all these different like mermaid folk tales. And yes, Hans Christian Andersen, who wrote the original story, which is very different from the live action, he wrote it. He's Danish or Yes, he's from Denmark. Danish.
Danish.
Yeah. His story still takes from stories from all over the world, all different types of culture. So he doesn't own like the mermaid story. And it's not a white people story. It's not like some Scandinavian story, really. I mean, and it's not like we're taking away the original Little Mermaid. Like, that movie still exists. The cartoon still exists. There's room for everyone. But anyways, so that's what got me interested in it. And it is, you know, mermaids are very merfolk, I should say.
Yes, you should.
Kind of interesting. So the word mermaid comes from mer, or mare is Old English for sea. I know in Spanish, sea is mar. I'm sure it's similar in Latin. And then maid means young girl, woman. Okay, so merfolk is like, you know, mermen and mermaids. Merfolk is everyone. So some of the earliest...
And the non-binary merfolk, okay?
Yeah, they're merfolk. Some of the earliest merfolk were in Mesopotamia and Eastern Mediterranean culture through art and figurines. So there were a lot of like little merfolk statues that they've found over time. Okay. But most of the time they were mermen. It was more common for them to be mermen. There were a few mermaids, but it was mostly mermen.
Okay.
The first known mermaid story appeared in Assyria, which is like ancient Mesopotamia, I believe, around 1000 BC. So the story is about the goddess Atargatis. She fell in love with a mortal and she accidentally killed him. And, you know, as it happens, back in the day, people died all the time. So she was so ashamed of doing this that she threw herself into the lake to, like, commit suicide. But she wasn't able to die. Instead, she took the form of a fish. And the waters didn't want to conceal her beauty, so they only made her half of a fish. So she still had, like, her face and, you know,
it's very considerate of the water.
Yeah. So then she became a mermaid, which, you know, we know is human from the waist up and fish from the waist down. However, it's not always like that way. There are different depictions of mermaids where it's like it's mostly a fish and then they just have like a human head or arms.
Well, we talked about, like, this reminds me of the centaur, you know, like when it was like human all the way down, except they had like a horse attached to the back. And you're just like, wait, do they have two wieners? Yes, they do.
Probably. All this stuff is all about like genitalia. I don't know. These people are just horny, essentially.
They were, yeah.
Okay, mermaids are also associated with sirens of Greek mythology. Right. But did you know that sirens weren't always half people, half fish? They were with a different animal. Do you know what it is? I know you like. Yes.
Okay.
And it was not as like sexy as it's like a pigeon with like a woman's head.
God, and why anybody would want to hang out with that, I don't know. Well,
eventually they changed it to fish and women. I don't know why.
And why that's sexier, I don't know.
But somehow it is still. I think because it still has like the body, I guess. Like more of a human body. A bird, I mean, there's no like
right. Well, if you threw a fish on the dock next to me and it just had a face that was a human, I'd be like, get that abomination away from me. But if you had like an Ariel jump up and she was like, hey, hon, I was like, damn, girl, you look good, you know?
Well, I also think a fish is different than like, you know, a dolphin, because fishes, they're more, I don't know how to describe it. They're like, they can't really lay on their back, right? Because they're more like a piece of paper. So if you put like a human head on a fish, the head it'd be like a Thomas the Tank Engine. Like the head would be in the front, you know? So it's really more like a dolphin manatee type situation than a regular fish. That's just what I've been dreaming about. But anyways,
very nice.
Okay, so they eventually became these like half fish human hybrids, and in the beginning they were male and female, but they eventually just became female, and they were known for their ability to entice men with their beautiful song, which I feel like is what most people know of sirens. Did you know that Alexander the Great had a sister who was a mermaid? Have you heard that legend?
No. Okay. Oh my God, I'm so into this.
So legend has it that when Alexander the Great found the Fountain of Youth, he came back home and he washed his sister's hair with the water. I don't know why. But her name was Thessalonike. And when he died at the young age of 32, she was so upset that she threw herself into the sea. But because she had like the Fountain of Youth or like Fountain of Immortality, she wasn't able to drown. So instead she turned into a mermaid who was able to breathe underwater. And legend has it that she lived in the Aegean Sea for hundreds of years. If she ever encountered a sailor, she would ask him if Alexander the King was alive. So the sailor had to say he lives and reigns and conquers the world, or else she would send him and his ship into deadly waters.
Oh, let's go find her.
Yeah. So if some mermaid ever finds you in the middle of the Aegean Sea and she's like, is Alexander the king still alive? You better say yes. If you know it's good for you. Yeah. I don't know how many of our listeners often sail the Aegean Sea, but
if you do,
you never know. Okay. 1001 Nights, which we know in the West as Arabian Nights, is a collection of Middle Eastern folklore from way, way, way back in the day, like 8th century. Features stories of mermaids and sea people. The only difference is that these people have entirely human bodies, yet they are able to live and breathe underwater.
Okay.
They can and do have babies with land humans, and the children, their little hybrid children, are able to live underwater as well.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they were probably like, hey, we like the idea of like sexy sea creature, but let's give him like a human vagina, not a fish vagina.
Like what?
If you want to see a fish or how a mermaid's genitalia would be, you can watch The Lighthouse starring Robert Pattinson.
Spoiler alert?
Not really. I mean, it's just one part of it. Okay. I mean, the whole movie is a trip. It is not like the type of movie you put on like a Sunday afternoon while you're cleaning the house. You have to like mentally prepare yourself.
Okay, because that's what I was going to do this Sunday, but thankfully you let me know.
No, there's a very interesting scene. I'll say that. Okay, so let's move to England. The oldest surviving depiction of a mermaid is in the Norman Chapel in Durham Castle, built in 1078 or 1078. Mermaids appear in British folklore as unlucky omens, both foretelling disaster and provoking it. They can also be a sign of approaching rough weather, and some have been described as monstrous in size up to 2,000 feet. That's a big mermaid.
Yeah, not interested in that.
That's like a kraken mermaid.
Yeah, imagine those genitalia.
Trust me. Okay, but mermaids weren't always bad. Some taught humans cures for certain diseases.
How kind.
Yeah. And then mermen have been described as wilder and uglier than mermaids, with little interest in humans.
Okay.
It's like, you know who's telling these stories, right? Yeah. It's these like horny men at sea. They're like, oh, we never see mermen. They're ugly. Their ladies hate them. That's why they talk to us.
This reminds me of how mermaids are depicted in Harry Potter, you know, like those ugly shrieking creatures under the Great Lake.
In Ireland. Lee Ban, she is like the folklore mermaid. Her legend is associated with the formation of Loch New, which is a large freshwater lake in Ireland. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But legend has it that Lee Ban was a human who lived in the area before the Great Lake gushed up onto the dry land. Her family was killed in the flood, but she survived in an underwater chamber and became half human, half salmon. Were salmon huge in Ireland? I don't understand how that would be.
I mean, and I guess if you cook her, she gets pink.
Yeah, salmon are whatever. Okay. Any Irish people listening, please let me know. So she was later, this is the weird part. The Irish are obsessed with Catholicism. She was later captured and baptized under the name Muirgin, aka Seaborn, and she died soon after. The moral of the story is that she gave up 300 years of living as a mermaid, because in most folklore, mermaids can live for a very long time, but they have no souls. She gave up the chance to live as a mermaid for 300 years for the chance for her soul to go to heaven after getting baptized. She appears canonized as Saint Muirgin in genealogies of Irish saints, and her feast day is January 27th.
Well, I'm heading over to Ireland for her feast day.
There's a mermaid saint. I don't get it.
You don't get it.
that story of being mermaids not having any souls and wanting to be human so they can get into heaven will come again later in Hans Christensen's story.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in Russia, the rusalkas are the Slavic counterpart of Greek sirens.
I know about these. Yes, they're crazy.
Yes. They are. So the nature of rusalkas, differ among different folk traditions in Russia, but according to ethnologist D.K. Zelenin, they all share a common element. They are the restless spirits of the unclean dead. So they're usually ghosts of young women who died a violent or untimely death, perhaps by murder or suicide, before their wedding, especially by drowning. They're said to inhabit lakes and rivers.
Yes, lakes and rivers, right.
Yeah. It's you think they're just in the ocean? No, they're freshwater mermaids. Yeah. You are not safe anywhere. Okay, China.
You got a pool? Be careful.
Merfolk are mentioned in the Shanghajing, which translates to Classics of Mountains and Seas, which is a compilation of Chinese geography and mythology from the 4th century BC. So again, a long time ago. Hans Christiansen did not invent mermaids. In one of the early stories, a man captures a mermaid on the shore of Lantu Island, and she looks human in every way except that her body is covered with fine hair of many colors. She cannot talk, okay? But he takes her home and marries her. Sounds familiar?
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. After his death, the mermaid returns to the sea where she was found. Basically, these are just like sex dolls, essentially.
I mean, honestly, she can't talk. Yeah. Like, there's no consent.
I know. Okay. So in Japan, Ningyo, which translates to human fish, is like their version of mermaids. And oftentimes they aren't quite half and half. So this is one of the situations where it's like a fish body with a human head.
How does it happen? How does it work?
I don't know.
A picture.
I mean, I don't think it exists, but maybe, well, I'm going to talk about some mermaid sightings. You can decide if they're real. Okay. So in Africa, mami water, which are water spirits who are usually female, but sometimes male, they're often considered evil and femme fatales, and they lure men to their deaths.
Very
and they live in the water, obviously.
I like them.
Yeah. Okay. So some famous reported sightings.
Yes.
Christopher Columbus. Boo. He supposedly saw 3 mermaids while sailing off the coast of Hispaniola in 1493. Apparently, he says that they're not as beautiful as they are represented to be due to some masculine features in their faces. Okay, Christopher.
Okay, Christopher, but these are considered. It's fine.
But these are considered to be sightings of manatees. That actually is a common like explanation for mermaids. People think it's manatees. Yes.
Do people think that manatees look human-like?
I mean, the way their heads are kind of weird. Like, it does kind of look like, I could see how someone could see it looks like someone with their head kind of turned.
Oh, I've seen a manatee in real life. Like, I was on a boat in Florida, and it was like in the canal.
They're all over Florida. But I mean, manatees are cute, but they're not sexy, I don't know. These poor manatees are just like minding their own business.
They are the cows of the sea. They don't need to be humanized, okay?
And then all these like horny sailors are like, does that fish have boobs?
And then she's like, Mommy, the weird sailor's looking at me.
There are different versions of manatees, though. I forget what the other one is called. There's like a species of manatee that's a little more like slender than your traditional manatee. So maybe that has more of the shape of a woman's body. I don't know. Just leave the manatees out of this, okay? They never asked for this.
They never did.
Okay, Blackbeard's logbook, who you have talked about in a previous episode, the pirate. He supposedly, I found this a couple places, but I don't know if it's true. He has notes of like waters to stay clear of because he's afraid that they're like enchanted by mermaids.
Interesting. And if you've ever seen Pirates of the Caribbean, you know to listen to the pirates and don't go into certain waters, okay?
Yeah, if anyone would know, they would. Okay, in 2009, there were multiple reports of a mermaid sighting on the coast of northern Israel, and there's a video of it on YouTube. Though most people think it's just a seal or the video's fake. I don't know. Right. I don't know if that is the video, but you can just search it if you're interested. Okay, and then I found this really interesting article on voazimbabwe.com called Mermaid Sightings in Zimbabwe Spark Debate of Traditional Beliefs. So in 2012, water workers who were meant to install pumps in reservoirs in Zimbabwe claimed that they couldn't do their job because they were being hounded by mermaids. And this became like a big deal. The resource minister of like water or whatever, he like had to talk about this in front of their version of like Senate or council.
Sure.
And he, quote, tried to hire white personnel to do the work at the Osborne Dam, supposedly because they had not been exposed to the mermaid report, but they too refused to undertake the project, alleging they had seen suspicious creatures. So according to the minister, workers report that people have disappeared mysteriously while some have been chased away by the legendary creatures. And the article just kind of talks about like, there is still a lot of like folklore or, that kind of belief in Zimbabwe culture. But then there's also more, that's like more traditional beliefs, but there's also more like modern beliefs. So it was kind of just how they approach this. So I think they did end up having people go and like expel the mermaids so that they could continue the work there.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
I think there's actually a really interesting last podcast on the left episode about mermaids.
Uh-huh.
I listened to it maybe like a year and a half ago. If I find it, I will send it to you.
Yeah. Please do. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about the original fairy tale.
Let's do it.
Hans Christian Andersen. This was written in 1836. This is actually pretty recent compared to the other stories of mermaids. Okay, so I'm just going to give you like a plot.
Hit me.
Synopsis. Okay, so the Little Mermaid lives in an underwater kingdom with her widowed father, the Sea King, and her 5 older sisters. When a mermaid turns 15, she's allowed to swim to the surface of the water for the first time to get a glimpse of the world above. And the Little Mermaid loves hearing about her sisters' trips to the surface as they all like turn 15 before her. So finally, when it's her turn, her 15th birthday, again, she's a child, she goes to the surface and she watches a birthday celebration being held on a ship in honor of a handsome prince, and she falls in love with him from a distance. A violent storm hits, sinking the ship, and the Little Mermaid saves the prince from drowning. She delivers him unconscious to the shore near a temple where a young woman from the temple finds him. He never knew that the Little Mermaid was the actual savior. He thought that this woman from the temple found him, was his savior. So the Little Mermaid, swims back down to her little Mer town, and she's sad and she asks her grandmother if humans can live forever. And the grandmother explains that humans have a much shorter lifespan than a mermaid's 300 years, but when mermaids die, they turn to sea foam and cease to exist. However, humans have an eternal soul that lives on in heaven. The Little Mermaid liked the sound of that, so she makes a deal with the Sea Witch. The witch sells her a potion that gives her legs in exchange for her tongue and beautiful voice. The witch warns the Little Mermaid that once she becomes human, she will never be able to return to the sea. The potion will make her feel like a sword is being passed through her body. Yet, when she recovers, she will have 2 human legs and will be able to dance like no human has ever danced before, whatever that means. However, she will constantly feel as if she's walking on sharp knives and bleed constantly.
Wow. Okay. That's not very exciting.
Yeah. No, on top of that, she will only obtain a soul if she wins the love of the prince and marries him. For then a part of his soul will flow into her. Otherwise, at dawn, on the first day after he marries someone else, the Little Mermaid will die with a broken heart and dissolve into sea foam upon the waves, and her soul won't go to heaven.
Oh, Lord.
What kind of lesson is this teaching? Yeah, she's 15, too.
What kind of lesson is this teaching young ladies?
So she takes the potion, and she passes out naked at the prince's palace. He finds her, and he's mesmerized by her, even though she can't talk. Eye roll.
And she's 15.
Yeah. Most of all, he loves to see her dance, and she dances for him, despite suffering excruciating pain with every step.
Ay.
So she becomes like his little companion. She joins him on all these little excursions. But then the prince's parents want to set him up in an arranged marriage to a princess who lives next door. But the prince says he will only marry that young woman from the temple who saved his life. Turns out the princess next door is the young girl from the temple. So the prince declares his love for her, and the royal wedding is announced. They celebrate their marriage on a wedding ship. You'd think he'd have enough of ships at this point.
Right.
But the Little Mermaid's heart breaks as she awaits her death the next morning, her death into nothingness. Ooh. However, before dawn, her sisters come out of the water and they bring her a dagger that the Sea Witch has given them in exchange for their long, beautiful hair. Again, it's like, your hair's not that important. Okay. If the Little Mermaid kills the prince and lets his blood drip on her feet, she will become a mermaid once more, and all her suffering will end, and she will live out her full life in the ocean with her family. Sounds like a good deal to me.
What does she do?
Well, she can't bring herself to kill the sleeping prince lying next to his new wife.
God, he doesn't like you.
Yeah.
Leave him.
So she throws the dagger and herself off the ship into the water. Just as dawn breaks, her body dissolves into foam. But instead of dying completely, instead of disappearing as their souls do, she turns into a luminous and ethereal earthbound spirit, or a daughter of air. As the Little Mermaid ascends into the atmosphere, she is greeted by other daughters who tell her that she has become like them because she strove with all her heart to obtain an immortal soul. Because of her selflessness, she's given the chance to earn her own soul by doing good deeds for mankind for 300 years and will one day rise up into heaven. The end. Fun fact, the working title was called Daughters of Air.
Wow.
Little Mermaid works much better, but...
I agree. Wow, this is Christian propaganda.
Yeah. So that's the true Little Mermaid story.
The true story. Yeah. Okay. I liked it. I would like to see a version of that where she takes control of her life a little bit more. maybe when she's not a minor. But I kind of
like the version where she's like, I don't want to give up my tongue for this dude, and she just like goes to college and
she goes to fish
pursues
college,
her mermaid dreams, and she lives for 300 years.
Yeah. God, I want to know what the prince was thinking though. Like, why don't you love the Little Mermaid, huh?
She can't talk. I don't know.
Can't.
Anyway, that's that.
That's that on that. Is that all you got for me on mermaids?
That's all I got.
Wow, I loved it. Thank you.
A deep dive into mermaids, if you will.
Yes. Deep dive in the sea. I'm sad to see the mermaids go, but we have to move on to my topic. We have to move on.
We don't have to do anything.
Okay? We're just going to sit in silence for the next 20 minutes.
It's actually turned to a meditation podcast.
Yes. My topic actually comes from the Tuesday New York Times crossword, July 21st. Zal Sheen Bernickel, 50 across, blank, Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty. So we're going to be talking about Humpty Dumpty and a little bit about some nursery rhymes.
Ooh, we're kind of both doing like folk
tale stuff. Yeah, I was excited when you said Little Mermaid, so yay. So we're going to be like a thematic, lovely little podcast this week.
This week only?
Yeah, this week only. Humpty Dumpty. It's an English nursery rhyme, okay, about an anthropomorphic egg. So if you like anthropomorphic eggs, this is the nursery rhyme for you.
There's a very specific audience that really wanted that.
I'm telling you that there is. It is probably the most well-known nursery rhyme in the English-speaking world, right? I mean, we can recite it. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a big fall, right?
All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say it's the most well-known story about an egg.
I do think it is probably the most well-known story about an egg. If you know a story that's more well-known about eggs than Humpty Dumpty, at me.
Prove us wrong.
Yeah. Okay. My DMs are open. So let's see. It's thought that Humpty Dumpty was actually started as more of like a riddle rather than a nursery rhyme. And it was kind of posed to small children so they could guess who or what Humpty Dumpty was. It's no longer posed as a riddle that I know of. And everyone and their mother knows that Humpty Dumpty is in fact an egg. I'm going to go through some different versions of the song and riddle. This one is from Juvenile Amusements, published in 1797 by a composer named Samuel Arnold. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, 80 men and 80 more could not make Humpty Dumpty where he was before.
Ooh.
1810, there's a guy named Joseph Ritson, who he kind of popularized the Robin Hood story. Published a book called Gammer Gurton's Garland, and this is the Humpty Dumpty from that book. Humpty Dumpty sate on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. 80 men and 80 more cannot place Humpty Dumpty as he was before. And sate is spelled S-A-T-E, and Humpty and Dumpty are spelled with I's instead of Y's.
Ooh, I like that.
In 1842, a Shakespearean scholar named James Orchard Halliwell published this version. Humpty Dumpty lay in a beck, with all of his sinews around his neck. 40 doctors and 40 rights couldn't put Humpty Dumpty to rights.
He rhymed rights with rights.
He did. Rights with a W with rights with an R.
Okay.
Yes. And then the American version, so the one that most American or English-speaking American children grew up with, goes as follows. Humpty Dumpty sat in a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again.
That's what I said.
That is exactly what you said. You should be very proud of yourself.
I am.
But what is the meaning behind all of this? And why, for the love of God, is Humpty Dumpty an egg? There are a lot of different proposed meanings for Humpty Dumpty, as there are for all nursery rhymes. Like, you can Google any nursery rhyme, and someone somewhere has come up with what that nursery rhyme means. Humpty Dumpty specifically, some scholars think it's a metaphor for the crippled King Richard III, or maybe it's a metaphor for the downfall of Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, who slowed down the annulment procedures between King Henry VIII and his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. But the most well-known and probably most widely accepted story behind the meaning of Humpty Dumpty comes from the Siege of Colchester in 1648. Colchester was, at the time, a town like with a castle and a bunch of churches, and it was sitting inside of a nice big wall. There's a large cannon positioned on the wall, known to the locals as Humpty Dumpty. And during the siege, in which the royalists were fighting against parliamentarians, which is basically like who should run the country, the royals or the parliament, you know? They're kind of fighting against each other. A parliamentary cannon shot at the Colchester wall, causing the Humpty Dumpty cannon to topple to the ground. The royalists, also known as the king's men, couldn't right the cannon or get it back up on the wall because it was too damn heavy. This is to say it has not been proven at all. And all of the places where I read this, there are no like actual cited sources, like, you know, reputable sources saying like, yes, this is exactly what happened, like this, whatever. But it is referenced as fact on the Colchester website. So if you're going to visit Colchester, you can go see the, you know, where Humpty Dumpty fell. But it's probably like the whole story is most likely based off of like a spoof of the original rhyme that was published somewhere in America in 1956. So you're telling me, after those like couple examples, that Humpty Dumpty didn't start off as an egg? No. Humpty Dumpty only became an egg probably because of one of two options. I've got two options here. According to the Oxford English Dictionary in the 17th century, quote, Humpty Dumpty is a drink of brandy boiled with ale. So in relation to the rhyme or the riddle, it probably suggests that a Humpty Dumpty was someone who was very clumsy with drink, who would then fall over and being irreparably damaged would be like an egg. So when you drop an egg, they're irreparably damaged. When a Humpty Dumpty falls over, they're irreparably damaged.
So is a Humpty Dumpty someone who likes to drink that drink, or is it someone who's gotten drunk off that drink?
Someone who's just gotten drunk. It kind of like, it's like, you know how we say Kleenex for a tissue, you know? It's like one of those. A Humpty Dumpty is someone who drinks a lot and gets really clumsy.
Wait, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So did you say the canon story came around after the Humpty Dumpty rhyme already existed? And it...
Yes.
So people think that they kind of just made it to fit the rhyme.
Right.
Okay.
So, the rumor is that Humpty Dumpty was this canon, and people started writing about it after this spoof rhyme came out in 1956. And people were saying, we found like reputable sources where we know that the cannon was called Humpty Dumpty in Colchester at the Siege of Colchester. But there are no sources to prove that these people saying, I found sources. Like some guy was like, I found this old book in an old library where they were talking about the Siege of Colchester and they referred to the cannon as Humpty Dumpty. And it's like, well, what book? What library? And that information doesn't exist, you know?
Also, do people normally give their cannon like funny names?
They might. I mean, I guess it's kind of like...
That's what we would do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you name boats weird things. I feel like they name guns weird things. Planes get named weird things, especially like war times.
Yeah.
Who knows? They're lonely. Horny men will come up with anything. They came up with mermaids.
If there's anything we've learned this episode, it's that horniness has no boundaries.
Although honestly, like if I was a horny man, like at war, I don't know if I'd be like necessarily interested in a cannon, and especially not a cannon named Humpty Dumpty. That's not like very sexually appealing to me. But I mean,
just to you,
to each their own.
That's to you.
Me. You're right.
Yeah.
To me. Sorry. I don't want to be rude. But okay, we're gonna move on. So we could have Humpty Dumpty as an egg thanks to this drink called Humpty Dumpty, but it is probably because of Lewis Carroll. And yes, Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland.
I know him.
Oh my God. In 1872, Lewis Carroll's book, Through the Looking Glass, Chapter 6. Here is a little paragraph for you about why we think Humpty Dumpty as an egg was popularized.
I didn't realize that came out so long ago.
Yeah.
It's really held up.
It has held up. It's very nice. Chapter 6. Quote, however, the egg only got larger and larger and more human. When she had come within a few yards of it, she saw that it had eyes and a nose and a mouth. And when she had come close to it, she saw clearly that it was Humpty Dumpty himself. It can't be anyone else, she said to herself. I'm as certain of it as if his name were written all over his face. And so that was like one of the first times where we see Humpty Dumpty is an egg in like written text, and we can like date it.
And people are like, oh wait, he's always been an egg, right? That's how those things happen.
It is. That's how these things happen. You heard it here first, folks. So I'm going to, gently transition us away from Humpty Dumpty because there's not much more to talk about unless we want to talk about like, rumors about what Humpty Dumpty could mean. I'm transitioning us naturally into talking more broadly about nursery rhymes. And some people know nursery rhymes as Mother Goose rhymes or Mother Goose stories. They're kind of interchangeable terms. I grew up with them being called Mother Goose stories or Mother Goose rhymes. But I mean, nursery rhymes is the same exact thing.
Yeah, no, I knew them as nursery rhymes.
So where do we get nursery rhymes from, and why are they important? It all starts with lullabies. So every culture on Earth, right, has some sort of lullaby or song that they use to put children to sleep. And it's believed that these lullabies influenced the very first nursery rhymes. In the 16th century, all the way through to the 18th century, playwrights and composers included little rhyming songs and schemes into their plays. Patty Cake, for instance, is one of the earliest nursery rhymes to be recorded, like written down, and it was originally included in a play from 1698. Let's see. Although most of these nursery rhymes didn't actually end up getting written down until much later, it was usually spread through word of mouth. So you would either go hang out with Granny, and she would say some sort of weird nursery rhyme to you, and you would remember it for the rest of your life and pass it down to your kids, or you would go see a play or a performer out in the town square, and things would kind of get passed along that way. I'm going to say some of these nursery rhymes can be traced pretty far back. One nursery rhyme that can be traced back to the 16th century along with Patty Cake is To Market, which goes, to market, to buy a fat pig, home again, jiggity jig.
Did that turn in? Go ahead. Sorry, go. No, go.
Two nursery rhymes that can be traced back to the 17th century would be Jack Sprat. That goes, Jack Sprat could eat no fat, his wife could eat no lean, but together both they licked the platter clean. And then Rain, Rain, Go Away. Rain, Rain, Go Away, goals. Coming in another day. Little Johnny wants to play. Rain, Rain, Go Away. So those are from the 16th and 17th century. It wasn't until the 18th century when publishing children's books became super popular. It was kind of on the rise. Two of the very first nursery rhyme books was published by a woman called Mary Cooper in 1744. One was called Tommy Thumb's Songbook, and the second was called Tommy Thumb's Pretty Songbook. So those are like the two of the first ever nursery rhyme books. And then we have this guy, Thomas Carnan, who was the very first author to use the term Mother Goose to refer to nursery rhymes in his book, Mother Goose's Melody in 1780, which I think is funny. But like after going through like all the possible meanings of, Humpty Dumpty, or why do we have nursery rhymes? How are they passed down? It's kind of impossible to say where exactly these nursery rhymes came from, what they mean, if there are any like ulterior, metaphorical meanings in them, or if they were just kind of spewing nonsense or whatever. But we can assume that most of these nursery rhymes came from or had roots in like traditional riddles, proverbs, ballads, mummers' plays, which we kind of talked a little bit about when I talked about egg rolling in England. Drinking songs influenced a lot of nursery rhymes, historical events, and even occasionally like pagan rituals. So why are nursery rhymes important? According to child development experts Sue Palmer and Ross Bailey, nursery rhymes with music significantly aid a child's mental development and spatial reasoning. And then Seth Lehrer, who is the Dean of Arts and Humanities at University of California, San Diego, says nursery rhymes foster emotional connections and cultivate language, which I could have told you that. But he's smarter than me.
I would have believed you.
Yeah, thank you. All that being said, I'm going to pick a couple nursery rhymes. We're going to see if we can come up with the meanings of them. And most of these meanings posited within this section of the podcast cannot be proven by any real sources, except unless you count like the web page where I found them to be a real source. But outside of that, there are no primary sources for these. But a lot of people hold stock in these assumptions, so do with that what you will. We are going to start with Ba Ba Black Sheep. Ba ba black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. 1 for the master, 1 for the dame, and 1 for the little boy who lives, and none for the little boy who lives down the lane.
The origin of it?
What do you think it means?
I don't know. Is it something to do with like the devil?
No. Great guess though. I mean, unless you think Edward the First is the devil.
The black goat. It's the devil. Hold on, sorry. My cat is sitting on my lap right now and I feel like he's purring into the microphone, but I can't push him. Oh.
Okay, just give him a little nursery rhyme and he'll go to bed, okay?
Okay. Sorry. No. Well, what'd the little boy down the street do?
Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, so it doesn't have to do with Satan in, actuality, but Edward the First was like obsessed with the Crusades, and he went out and did a bunch of crusades, and then he came back in 1272, and he needed to pay for these crusades. So you know what he did? He put a tax on wool products and wool trading to pay for his military ventures because he's a dick. And so people think that that's kind of like how the rhyme came about. Wool trading was huge in England and in the world in general. People used wool for clothes, and if you had like a massive flock of sheep, that would be how you were like, I'm rich because I have 8,000 sheep,
Yeah.
So they think this is where the rhyme comes from. 1/3 of the price of each bag or sack sold was for the king, the master. 1/3 to the monasteries or the church, who is the dame, and none to the poor shepherd, the little boy who went down the lane, who had tirelessly tended and protected the flock.
Classic. So, nothing's changed.
Classic. And then there are some people who say that it is a metaphor for the slave trade in America. Which I think is arguable. Although if it's from 1272, it's a little bit more hard to make those connections. But like I said, like these are all passed down orally, and I think the communities who use them find ways to find meaning in them within their lived-in realities. So if you can read into that and find it being about the slave trade, then it is, I guess. Here's another one: Georgie Porgy. Georgie Porgy, pudding and pie, kissed the girls and made them cry. When the boys came out to play, Georgie Porgy ran away.
I'm sure it was about some, like, big monarch named George.
Yes, very good guess. It's thought that Georgie Porgy was King George IV, and basically this means that this rhyme was ridiculing his body and the amount that he eats. And as well as he is a very lusty man, okay? And he had many, many mistresses. He tried marrying a commoner who he was in love with, right? But it was forbidden because 1, she was a commoner, and 2, worse, she was a Catholic. I know. Worse for him, not literally worse. The woman he actually ended up marrying, he hated. So then he made both of the women in his life cry. So that's what that's about.
Oh.
What about Jack and Jill? Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after.
Broke his crown. So does something to do with like the fall of like some monarch trying to do too much and then failing and like brought someone down with him? I don't know.
I like the guess. It's wrong, but I like it. Okay. So there's a little village north of Somerset in England, right? And they claim to be like the origin of the Jack and Jill rhyme. Local legend says that in the late 15th century, a young unmarried couple would regularly climb a nearby hill in order to conduct their quote unquote business in
their
private.
Coitus?
Yes.
Ew, and they're not married?
They're not married. Oh my God. So then, of course, Jill got pregnant. I know. Shock. Just before the baby was born, Jack was killed by a rock that fell from his special hill. And a few days later, Jill died while giving birth to their child.
Oh, wow. That's sad.
Very sad. So that's Jack and Jill. What about Ring Around the Rosie? Ring around the rosy, a pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
This one's about like some plague, right?
Yes.
You would get like a round, like hive or something, and then posies were maybe like a cure, or they smelled good, so they like hid the smell of death or something.
Exactly.
Like
yes.
that.
So The Great Plague of London, 1665. A rosy is the smelly rash that develops on your skin when you're suffering from the bubonic plague. And in order to conceal the smell, you would fill your pockets with little flowers, otherwise known as posies. And then the bubonic plague actually killed 15% of Britain's population, hence the we all fall down, as in we all fall down dead. So that's what that means. Another one for you. Rock-a-bye baby. Rock-a-bye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all.
I don't know. That's kind of a messed up song to sing to little kids, though.
It's extremely messed up.
Is it about like someone's... Is it about like a kid born out of wedlock or something? I don't know.
That is an incredible guess. Very close. Very close. So Rock-a-bye Baby refers to events that happened right before the Glorious Revolution. And the Glorious Revolution is when Mary II and William III of Orange overthrew James II of England, who happened to be Mary's dad. So basically this was like a fight of Protestants over the Catholics. So William and Mary were the Protestants and James was the Catholic, so they overthrew the Catholics. Before all of this happened, James had a son. And the baby was widely believed to be the child of another man smuggled into the birthing room in order to ensure a Roman Catholic heir. He knew what was going to happen. He knew that some bad Protestant shit was about to happen, and he needed a Catholic son to fight back for the throne. And so they snuck this baby in. It's not, I don't know if he actually got the baby in or not, right? Mm-hmm. But that's kind of what people think. And then the wind in the little nursery rhyme is thought to be the Protestant forces blowing in from the Netherlands, and the doomed cradle is the royal house of Stuart, which is also doomed. Interesting. Then we have, I'm just going to breeze through a couple more because I have a point I want to make. So we have Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary, which is about Bloody Mary, the daughter of King Henry VIII, who was obsessed with torturing and murdering Protestants. We have Goosey Goosey Gander. It's a tale of religious persecution. It talks about how Catholic priests were forbidden to speak their Latin-based prayers, so they had to do it in secret. Then we have Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush, which is about a specific prison in England called the Wakefield Prison, where female inmates would exercise by walking around a mulberry tree in the prison yard. Then Pop Goes the Weasel is about poverty, pawnbroking, and wanting to be paid a minimum wage. So this leaves us with the question, are these rhymes actually good for children? The Victorians founded a little society called the British Society for Nursery Rhyme Reforms, with aims at cleaning up, see censoring, the canon of nursery rhymes. The society condemned 100 of the most common nursery rhymes, including Humpty Dumpty and Three Blind Mice. Here are some reasons for why they condemned these rhymes. Harboring unsavory elements, referencing poverty, scorning prayer, and ridiculing the blind. There's 21 cases of death, notably choking, decapitation, hanging, devouring, shriveling, and squeezing. 12 cases of torment to animals. 1 case each of consuming human flesh, body snatching, and the desire to have one's own limb severed. And that's why they didn't like the nursery rhymes and they wanted to censor them. So, are nursery rhymes really bad and should we not be saying them to our kids? I found a nice little article called The Dark Side of Nursery Rhymes. It's on the BBC. I'm going to read you a quote just to kind of end my little section here. And you can tell me afterwards if you think we should be saying these nursery rhymes to children. Quote, "Nursery rhymes are part of long-standing traditions of parody and a popular political resistance to high culture and royalty. Indeed, in a time when to caricature royalty or politicians was punishable by death, nursery rhymes proved a potent way to smuggle in coded or thinly veiled messages in the guise of children's entertainment. In largely illiterate societies, the catchy sing-song melodies helped people remember the stories and, crucially, pass them on to the next generation. Whatever else they may be, nursery rhymes are a triumph of the power of oral history." End quote.
Interesting. It is true that the nurseries have these rhymes have stuck around for so long that they're continuing to tell these stories, even though when you're a kid you have no idea that that's what it's about.
Right, and I think about most of these, meanings that I've told you about have to do with like English kings and queens from hundreds and thousands of years ago. And you're like, but we still say them to this day, and we could like recall them from memory. I mean, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely like a gray area, because then all this stuff recently about, I don't know if they're really nursery rhymes, but like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, like the origins of that, the origins of do your ears hang low. Those are all like newer versions of songs that used to be extremely racist and have like the N-word in them. That's more recent though. So people are saying, we shouldn't say those anymore because of where they started. But like that is different than, a story from hundreds of years ago about a fat king, Georgie Porgy.
Right, exactly. And I think too, like, it really depends on what you're using it for also. I mean, like Jack and Jill. I don't think there's anything wrong with singing Jack and Jill went up a hill to fetch a pail of water. Because I'm not going to sit down my 4-year-old and say, this Jack and Jill went down a hill. Did you know that they had sex up on the hill? They had sex on the hill, and then she had a mistress and she died.
Married.
Yeah, this was out of wedlock. Like, I'm not going to do that unless they ask me, and then I would, very happily tell them. But yeah, I guess it really just depends. Like, do your research on what you're teaching your children, and if you find out after you teach your children something that it's racist, then stop telling them about it, or educate them on it. I got a lot of my info from the BBC, Huffington Post, historicuk.com, and a lovely little website with amazing graphics called Myths and Legends. So head over there and check it out.
I feel like I've probably been on Myths and Legends in some of my... Sometimes I go to I end up in this very weird rabbit hole.
I know.
Reading these articles from 10 years ago.
I know.
About this very specific topic. But there's, there's articles about everything out there.
I know. You know what I like to do? I like to go to the Wikipedia page, scroll all the way to the bottom to the references, and then open all the references, and that's kind of where I start.
Well, I also always find on the Wikipedia page, it's I read stuff on there, and then I'm reading these articles, and it's the Wikipedia page just ripped word for word.
Exactly.
I do love Wikipedia though, I have to say. I know some people don't like Wikipedia. Is amazing. I mean,
it is. It's an incredible free resource, and I think it's an incredible jumping point for a lot of people who don't necessarily have access to ways to get to the library, or they don't have a JSTOR login, or, all of these amazing articles are hidden behind paywalls. So yes, of course people need Wikipedia. Anyway. Cool.
Well, now I feel like I'm going to watch Little Mermaid and then read myself a nice little bedtime story.
Yeah, you should. I'm going to sing Ring Around the Rosie to myself until I fall asleep. Ashes to ashes.
That doesn't sound creepy as you're levitating in your bed. Your eyes are rolled to the back of your head.
I'm actually levitating right now. You just can't see. I'm not actually sitting in a chair. I'm just levitating. You'll have to go into YouTube and watch me do it, which we have a YouTube channel.
Yeah. By the way, and then if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at The Good Eve Girls.
Or Instagram, The Good Evening Girls. We do lots of fun things. Come chat.
Or TikTok at The Good Eve Girls. We need to post something. We haven't posted anything in a while.
Yeah, we do.
It's just hard when we're not physically together, you know?
I know. This is the closest we get. She's miles away. Miles.
Actually not even that many miles away.
No, not really. But it would take us ages to get to each other on public transport. Anyway, it's fine. We'll see each other soon, one of these years.
It's fun, next year, maybe. But yeah, so thanks for listening.
Thank you for joining. We'll see you next week.
We will see you guys next week. See you next Tuesday.
Just kidding. It's actually see you next Thursday, and it still works. So
it's actually see you next Monday because we post on Mondays.
Oh, damn. We record on Thursdays. Our secrets are revealed.
Honestly, okay.
Okay, we gotta go, everybody. Bye.